Kick it.
Represent.
Okay, so hey, welcome back to the podcast, the show, Life Speaks. I'm your host, Guicho Breach, aka Luis Perez, aka Guicho Breach, and you already know. If you know, you know, Demon Killer, and of course my co-host,
Casey Case, Tennessee
representer. And before we get started, we want to give a shout out to all our sponsors. Primarily, go ahead, Casey.
510 Architecture and Design. Our boy Daniel Martinez, holler at him for your architectural needs, and he has got your back like chiropractic.
His info is right there on your screen, so feel free to give him a call, whatever
Tell
the
him
case.
we sent you.
Yes, and he'll give you a.
He'll hook you up.
Maybe he'll give you a discount. No, he'll give you a 5% discount. I'm just joking. Also, so architectural. What is it? 510. 510
Architecture and Design.
Architecture and Design.
Yes.
The Choosing Hope Foundation. I just ruined it. The Choosing Hope Foundation. Want to remind you of that. Choosing Hope Foundation is founded primarily, but not entirely, in the prison ministry, parole ministry, but it extends further.
Parolees stand up.
Yes, shout out to all the parolees. And shout out to all the parolees in the parolee section.
Yes.
And but also extends further into, working with homeless people, which, you hear me say stuff like this, but it's like we have people in our church that came into the church homeless. Drug addicts that we have seen God restore their lives. So
yes, and they're doing great things right now.
Doing great things, and so what we're saying is because we've lived it, we've seen it happen. Homelessness, battered women, focusing also. We had discussed this a few episodes ago, where we had talked about a big focus on suicide prevention because we have a lot of people that we know, that we deal with, that we've been in contact with, where suicide has impacted their lives through a loved one, church people, things of that sort. And so focusing also on suicide prevention. So the Choosing Hope Foundation works to help facilitate the help for these people, primarily understanding that through the church, yes, we preach Christ, we preach forgiveness, repentance, change, deliverance, everything that includes, but also furthermore, the efforts of the people, everything that it entails to get these people functioning and benefiting, and placed in a place in society where they can actually contribute. That's where the foundation comes in. So if you want to donate, if you want to partner with us in our vision to help facilitate that and move that forward, the Choosing Hope Foundation, we're going to have a give online or a button to give on our website for Life Speaks. If you don't see it, if you want to donate, you don't see the button there, just get a hold of someone. Get a hold of us. Our information is there. Our email. You can get a hold of us, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be online. You can write a check. You can. There's a lot of ways you can give, and so you can partner with us in that.
Yeah.
Also our fellowship, Christian Fellowship Ministry, CFM. Big sponsor, because this is what we represent, and of course our church, the Potter's House Christian Church, which our church particularly. The Potter's House here in Universal City, Texas, which our name recently changed to the Potter's House GRA, or Greater Randolph, or the Potter's House of the Greater Randolph area. And so
come see us.
Also come, that way you know where we're at. Come see us, come check us out, follow us. Anybody that needs help. You've heard the podcast, you've seen the episodes. You know someone that needs help, someone that needs change. You know where to direct them. It doesn't matter where they come from. We will help them. We will work with them. And if you know, you know. And so today we have another powerful episode to share with you. We have, if you saw the last episode of our podcast was Pastor Daniel Alfaro, who pastors the one of our churches, one of our sister churches here in our fellowship, The Door, New Braunfels, Texas. And so today we have with us his wife, Mrs. Jessica Alfaro. And so we just want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you for being here.
You're with us. And powerful. You've heard part. One of the things that we tried to do when we're doing Daniel's testimony was, we were trying to make sure he kept his wife's part vague because we wanted to interview her. And so I believe that her side of it is just as powerful as Daniel's, if not more so, because she was on the receiving end of the problems, of the issues and the assaults against her marriage. And to hear her side of it, I think is going to bring a lot of encouragement and clarity to a lot of people, but a lot of women that might find themselves in the same situation. And so just as we kick this off, Jessica, I want you to go far. Just go back childhood. Just tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your childhood.
Well, like my husband, I didn't have a father or.
And that is a continuous issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. So let's stop.
That's a serious continuous issue.
Obviously, this whole father. I mean, what is this called? A epidemic? Fatherless epidemic?
That's a good word.
This fatherless issue, man. I mean, what is this? I mean, come on.
Step your game up,
Step up, man. Take responsibility. Take care of your children. Take care of your wife. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Here is another example. Another person, totally different dynamic. And here it is. Tell us about your child. I didn't have a father. Where are you guys? Where are the dads, man? We need Jesus, man.
Yes.
And so here's another example. So grew up without a father.
I don't know my father. I've never seen him. He's never seen me.
That is tragic.
My grandparents raised me pretty much. My mom was there, but not there. She was always with one man. I can say I only saw her with one man, which is my younger sibling's father. Mm-hmm. So she met him when I was young, but she was in and out of the house with him to Mexico and back. And I think at one point when I was young, she had an apartment with my younger sister. And so I just remember me and my older sister, my older brother, catching a bus to go visit her at some times.
How old are you at this time?
I can't remember.
Like little kid?
I was a little kid. And my sister was probably middle school.
Which sister is it? A sister I know?
Terry.
Oh, okay.
And so I just remember visiting my mom, and we would catch the bus back, and it's grandma and grandpa. So my grandpa was the male in my life, but he was old. He was already old. To me, I guess he was always old. But so he was the male. And
shout out to grandpa for.
Oh yeah, he was the best.
Hey, grandpa.
He was the best. And so that's what I remember having, my grandma and grandfather. When my mom did go back, it was me and my mom always clashed constantly.
Are you the oldest?
No.
Okay.
I am the third out of 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's 7 of us, and I'm the second girl. I'm the third. So,
do you think y'all clashed because y'all was probably like a lot similar? Y'all were probably a lot alike.
I don't even know why we clashed so much. I felt like I did good in school. I listened. I feel like I started rebelling when she would come back and try to give me rules, but she wasn't there for the most part. So it was almost like, what are you trying to do here? Why are you trying to give me rules? So we would fight. I wouldn't say fight. I argued. But my mom was very abusive to me, most of all of us. The younger, from me on down, there's 4 siblings underneath me. I think they might have gotten hit once, but with me and my mom, she would always take it extreme. And so that was our relationship. So for the most part with me and her, even in middle school, I mean, once my older sister moved out, that was my getaway. So if I can go with my sister always had compassion for me. So she always said, okay, come stay with me. So I was always back and forth from grandma's to my sister's because me and my mom couldn't get along. I was a good kid in middle school. I had good grades. The thing I didn't have was my grandmother was old school, and she wasn't the kind of lady that drove or went to the stores or anything. She was just at home. She only wore dresses, never seen her in pants or anything. So she didn't know where I was half the time when I was gone. And when I was home, I'm lost now. So when I was home at that time, we were poor. We were like really poor. And I didn't know I was poor because my grandmother always made food like all the time, and it was always rice and beans and chicken or in the rice and beans.
Sounds good.
But as far as my health wise, being young, because my mom wasn't there, I just remember her taking me one time to the dentist, like just once. I got free shots at the school one time, but other than that, there was no taking them to the doctor.
So your upbringing was pretty much neglect. I mean, you were just growing up in neglect. Rough.
Pretty much. Yeah, like.
Poor meaning poverty. I mean.
It was, me and my brother shared clothes. And at first I didn't see anything wrong with it. I was like, who cares? I didn't know I was poor until I realized later that the teachers would be like, oh, we got you this gift. And it was like, why didn't everybody get gifts? Just me.
Okay.
So, or here's a bag of food. And I was like, okay. But I just, remember like being dirty. I knew I was dirty. But then my teacher one time, she said, you need to take a shower. And I was like, what? Telling me I need to take a shower.
Really?
I'm a little kid. And
how old were you when they told you
I
that?
was in 3rd grade.
Oh, wow.
And I was...
was it because she knew something, or...?
I don't know. I probably just stunk. I was smelly. So...
you say it so matter of factly that I'm like, do we laugh at this or what? I mean,
I don't know.
Do you feel bad, or do you laugh at this?
I laugh now, but... So... I had an aunt who was there when I was younger, and she took care of me like I was her own. Yeah. But she moved away, so then I was just there. Yeah. And she used to always have my hair combed. It was long, and I just remember once I hit 3rd grade, she was gone. They cut my hair short, and they were telling me that I was just infested with, lice, and I was just a dirty kid. And I didn't know it.
Well, I mean, and so, just to kind of like, in her defense, she was a child. Okay, so, I mean, look, man, she wasn't, step up your game, parents. You have this little kid here, I mean, like, she's a child. She's a victim, man. Come on, it's just, I'm laughing because Daniel's laughing over here, but I'm just like, parents, you know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, get involved. Like, I just, anyway, I don't want to derail this thing. So how did that make you feel?
Because I was young, I don't
really
know.
Think nothing
there was a kid who had a quarter every day for dessert, and I thought he was rich. I said, that guy is rich.
A baller.
She said, I stunk.
I stunk. I was smelly. I had knots in my hair. It was...
Stop it. Stop it. That is tragic. But the way you're saying it's so matter of fact, it's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go from here. Okay. So knots in your hair, lice.
Yeah. Just
so neglect, man. Utter
neglect. And I guess at the time I felt, I don't know. I just really didn't care because I was a street kid. Me and my brother were always at the park playing.
So you weren't a girly girl. So it didn't matter because you weren't a girly girl?
Right. I wasn't a girly girl. We were always at the park rolling off the hills. I was always following my brother everywhere. So my older sister, when we were younger, she was sent away to my aunt's house. So she spent most of her life with an aunt. and didn't come back till her junior year in high school.
Did the neglect ever change or ever get better? Or
I started taking care of myself. Once I hit 15, I started working.
So neglect all the way to
15.
So you were aware of the neglect, and you were aware you couldn't do anything about it?
Right. Well, because my mom would always tell me, we don't have money for that, or we don't have money for this. And my stepfather, I guess, or my younger sibling's father, he would always provide my mom with money for his kids.
Yeah.
So it was for his kids, and he was real,
You wasn't included in
No,
that.
me and my brother weren't included. So whenever it was school shopping, she would tell me, go ahead and throw some pants in there, and I'll tell them, they're batteries.
Yeah.
And I'm all, okay. And then later on, I started building anger. That's pretty much when I started realizing she's not taking care of me. And I started realizing,
as a child, you're making the connection.
right. In middle school, I started realizing, I started getting angry. Yeah. And it was hatred and anger towards my mom. I started building. It just built from there all the way until I got saved. It was just a lot of hate.
Have you ever shared this part of your testimony before?
I have, and sometimes I don't. Okay. I don't know why. There's certain people that I feel like have anger issues, and so I'll share with those.
I think this is powerful. I mean, to hear you say this. I mean, I know we're laughing about it because we can laugh about it now, but I think it's powerful because that is a thing. Like, people do grow up like that, and it does affect them. There's stigmas about that people have to grow up with because of neglect like that. You know what I mean? And for you to be able to share that so matter-of-factly and bluntly not only speaks to the dynamic of what God has done in your life, but also to the realness of it, how real this is. Yeah, there is neglect out there, and kids are struggling out there. And furthermore, that's why parents need to do right by your kids, man. Like, do right by them. Yeah, I'm not talking about, I know some kids are spoiled, but do right by your children, man. You know what I mean? And so you realize you're not being taken care of. You're saying, I got to take care of myself. Mm-hmm. What happens then? What do you do about that?
As soon as I turned 15, I was able to get a job for the summer jobs where we would take care of the younger kids at like recreations. And I got in there. I started working, and I started buying myself clothes, my own food. Just, I would go and take my own clothes to the laundry, wash them. I'd take them on a stroller to the laundromat, wash my clothes. And that was when me and my mom, my mom, when she was there, she would be like, you need to wash all the clothes. I'm like, I'm not washing everybody's clothes. I ain't wearing all these clothes. I'm going to wash my clothes. Mm-hmm. And so when she couldn't get me to do it, she had my younger sisters. They had to wash everybody's clothes, which was my grandma's, my grandpa's, my mom.
How old are you at this time?
I was 15.
So that's what, middle school? No, that's high school.
It was high school, right?
Yeah, I think that's high school.
Beginning of high school, yeah.
Where does the clubbing, come in?
I was actually in 6th grade when I started going to the club.
Whoa,
6th grade, that is middle school.
Yeah.
Is that middle school?
That's middle school.
Yeah, 6th grade, I was like 11 or 12 years old.
Wow.
And we got...
Didn't we go to the same middle school?
Yes, Mark Twain.
Is that the same? Okay, so I found out through someone, I don't know, you or my wife or somebody, that me and Jessica went to the same middle school. I didn't know her, but I'm hearing her say that, and I'm like, what? We were in middle school, like.
Yeah.
So what does clubbing entail at 6th grade?
How did you get in?
Well, they didn't have like the IDs they have now. They had the one with the picture, and they laminated, like that. So we knew people in there, me and my friends. So when I got to 6th grade, I started to rebel and start doing so great in school.
You're working, or no?
Well, I was, and then the summer was over, so...
Oh, no, but we're talking about 6th grade now.
I went back.
Oh, okay.
I went backwards. Well, middle school, so I started clubbing at that time. That's when I started clubbing, and me and my friends were tight. I would stay with them, and pretty much that's it. They couldn't stay at my house because there was too many kids. Yeah. So from there on, we just kind of escalated in the clubs. Like, we were always dancing, like hip-hop.
Okay. Clubs meaning like what like actual clubs?
Yeah. Yeah, like clubs, like Club Spice, where the White Rabbit is now. It used to be a Club Spice, or there was different clubs. I
So
don't
y'all
even
are
know their
children. Obviously, it's still neglected.
Was y'all drinking and stuff too?
No, and I tried drinking, but it wasn't for me. I guess because I like to play sports. I was very into basketball. I remember trying weed at one point in middle school and trying to play basketball afterwards, and I couldn't shoot or make a basket. So it wasn't my thing. Smoking or drinking wasn't my thing. It was just staying out and being at the club.
Is that what led up to the violation?
The violation happened in middle school as well, when me and my friends were going to my house, because my grandmother had like this open door for everybody. So even though we didn't have food, whenever she was making food, she never held back from whoever wanted any. So if you were a stranger who came in, she was making tortillas. And
who's going to eat?
Yeah, everybody was going to eat. Like, tomorrow we'll worry about tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
So she was always giving food away. Like, all my friends, I felt like they just went for our tortillas. And so I remember, so my stepdad was always there on the weekends just to park and drink and, abuse my mom every now and then. So I remember my friends, we all walked up at the same time going in, and he called me over there, which was weird because he talked only Spanish, and he knew I didn't really understand him sometimes when he was drunk because he was slurred. And my friends were like, hey, we're going to go inside. And, I was like, all right. So he called me over there, and I knew he was drunk, and he just started putting his hands all over me. And it was just so weird for me. Just very uncomfortable.
How old are you at this time?
Yeah. I was in middle school.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I was in 7th grade or 8th
10,
grade.
11 years old, maybe
right.
12.
Right. And I remember my friends, like, they're pretty hardcore for being young when we were that age. I remember they go, what's going on? And I was like, almost like I gave them the stare, like, help me. And they're like, come on, Jay, come on. And or they called me G, come on, G. And I'd be like, okay. So I'd like pulled away, and it was just so uncomfortable. Like, I never wanted to be around there and in the home anymore. Like, just never wanted to be. I was always staying the night somewhere else.
So the violation happened, and I mean, did anything get done about this guy?
I never told my mom because I overthought stuff. Because I knew my mom, she favored the boys. The boys couldn't do any wrong. And I felt like if I told her, the chance, maybe she'll do something. And I thought if she did, she won't get that help that she does for all the kids anymore. Which was, he came on the weekend and gave her money or whatever the kids needed. He would give them that. And I remember thinking, I'm just not going to say nothing. But I did tell my brother. I told my older brother. And I don't know how long after that when I did tell him. It was probably years later. And I remember when I did tell him, he flipped. And the day he saw him, the first day he saw him at the house, they fought. He like punched him, and they started fighting. And my mom came out, and he goes, he touched Jessica, and you're not going to do nothing about it. And of course my mom didn't know anything about it. She goes, what are you talking about? And I was just like, I had told my brother, don't do nothing, because he still gives mom's money for the kids. And he was like, I don't care. So ever since that fight, that's another thing. Like, I felt like my mom chose him before me and my older brother and my older sister. It was like we were the outcast. And we were just pushed aside, and that was that. I just, from there on, hatred built more.
So keeping that inside, I mean, I deal with a lot of people. You deal with a lot of people in your ministry. We've interviewed other people and stuff, and we hear about this violations, molestation, things of that sort. I mean, what in your perspective and in your feelings, I mean, keeping that in, And that's horrible. First of all, how did that affect you? I mean, what did it do to you? What did it produce in you to just keep that in? Or was it like,
No, I want to say since that happened, I started dressing more like a boy. I started trying to cover up when I knew I didn't dress revealing at that time anyways. But it just made me dress more baggy clothes.
More grungy.
Yes, more long basketball shorts that didn't fit, just big shirts. I remember if I was going to walk to my friends, I'd throw a trench coat on and a hood. So if they thought anything, they'd think it's a guy, Just didn't want to be touched.
We dealt with a situation years ago where it was a molestation case, and we remember one of the things that we dealt with was the young girl that was being molested. She always dressed real like a boy, and when it all came out and stuff and everything, the authorities got involved, whatever it was. Why would she dress it? She said she wanted to be as unattractive as possible because she was tired of being molested. And she felt that by dressing like a boy and being ugly and dressing ugly and looking ugly, it would discourage her molester from molesting her. And so I'm just like, I'm hearing you say that. I'm like, oh, wow, that's very true.
Yeah.
It
makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be looked at like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like a piece of meat,
like a piece of meat or somebody you can just go touch.
Yeah. So then your grandparents pass away.
Yes, in high school. I was in high school, and
did that affect you pretty hard?
Yes, it was. It rocked my world.
Was it at the same time or?
Yes, they died a month and 1 week apart.
Due to
sick.
Just old age.
Well, yeah, my grandmother was 85 and my grandfather was 83.
Okay.
So they both had strokes.
Oh wow.
And my grandmother had a stroke first, and was it my grandmother?
These are the same grandparents that were taking care of you?
Yes, they raised me. It was my grandfather who had a stroke first, and he was in a nursing home for like a few weeks, almost a month, and then my grandmother ended up having a stroke, and then they told my she'd passed away before him. And then they told my grandfather that, hey, my grandmother died. And I guess he couldn't take it. So they took him to the funeral. And I guess he gave up because now he didn't have a wife to come home to. So he passed away a month and 1 week later.
You're saying that rocked your world? I mean, that jacked you up?
It jacked me up. I stopped going to school. I was a senior, and it was January. We're supposed to graduate in June. I literally dropped out in January.
Oh, wow.
Because they passed away November, December, and I was like, I don't need school. I started hanging out, with
So
Daniel
who's taking
more.
care of you now at this point?
I was going to Daniel's.
Okay.
I had already met him. I had met him when I was 16, and my brother was around, but I was staying everywhere.
So you're going through all this stuff, and then on another part of your life, you have Daniel on the side.
Right.
Like, not on the side, but I mean, he's part of your life. But you're saying all this stuff about your life that doesn't even seem relevant to him, but you're saying that he was still part of your life. So you had all this stuff going on crazy in your life, and then you had him.
He was a part of my life, and then at that time he left. He got in trouble, and he was going to visit in Burleson. And he ended up staying there a year, and I guess that's because he got caught over there when he was visiting. They ended up at the door, and he ended up doing a few months there and stayed there for a year. So while he was over there that year, that's when my grandparents had passed away. And, well, yeah, that rocked my world. So I stopped going to school, just like skipping, and I just remember cops came when I was at school one day, and they arrested me and said, "You're truant, you haven't been here." I'm like, "So you're going to take me out of school for truancy?" you know? And so they arrested me, and they locked me up in Bexar County for a week.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
So you did county time?
Yeah.
Dang, for truancy? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you join a gang?
Laka. No, but I remember when I was working at Bill Miller's at the time, so I was saving for a car. I was like, I'm gonna buy me a car. Like, and I knew no one's gonna help me buy a car. I have to do this. Well, when that happened, I remember they called my mom, and I said, Mom, don't come. She goes, well, I gotta go. And I go, Mom, they're gonna take you in. And sure enough, she gets to school and they arrest my mom.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I remember.
She ends up in county too?
She's there. And I remember telling.
Did y'all see each other?
Yeah, she was there, and I was leaning on her because it was cold. And I remember saying, Mom, I'm so sorry. And some prison guard goes, y'all need to get off of each other. And I'm like, it's my mom. I'm just like, I don't know that. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I remember whatever I had saved up, I told my older sister, I said, hey, I have some money in my wallet. Take Mom out of here. She don't belong here. So she used whatever I was saving to get her out. And then I was there for like a whole week. So then my bail got shorter.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. You're neglected. You're going through this stuff. Your mom, you end up in county. She ends up in county, and you have the heart to be like, get my mom out of here.
Yeah.
Why? What?
I don't know. She was old. I just thought she don't belong here. It was my fault. I could have been at school, but I just like, I'm not going to school.
So you were just planning on staying there, like whatever. You're like, I'll do what I gotta do. You're like, I'll do some hard time.
I was like, whatever. I don't care.
Sharpen this toothbrush.
I was like, I remember they had fish there. I don't eat fish, so I was like, can I have your bread? I'll give you this fish. But I make fun now, but it wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun.
It was not fun.
I'm pretty sure it was pretty heart-wrenching stuff.
Right.
So then you get out eventually?
I do. I want to say Daniel gets out or comes back to San Antonio. We start up our relationship, and then I get pregnant.
So you when you say you start dating your brother's best friend.
My brother's best friend.
And then you get pregnant.
Right.
That's where he had mentioned in his episode.
Yeah.
About that. So how old are you at this time?
I want to say I was 19.
So
when I got pregnant.
So how did you meet him? I mean, did you see him? He saw you. You were kind of like, hey,
Well, I had known him since I was 16 because he was hanging out with my brother.
Okay.
And I saw him with all these hoochies and, and at that time I was already working. So I saw him and my brother always with different girls. And he was always with my brother. Never saw him go home. Mm-hmm. So he always carried a backpack. And I was all like, do you have a toothbrush? Mm-hmm. Like, brush your teeth. Because at that time I felt like a baller because I was making money.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
And so, and I remember my brother was like, hey, just give me a few bucks. Let me get some Doritos. We walked to H-E-B. And I'm like, do you need a toothbrush, brother? Like, because
you're telling Daniel this.
I was telling my brother Sergio, and Daniel was with them. So I was like, if y'all need something, get it now, kind of thing. And so that was pretty much it from there. And then at 16, seeing him always around, and I thought he was attractive. Mm-hmm. And then from there, just over the years, I guess we never did anything. Never. It wasn't until like I invited them to what was supposed to be my senior party at it was a friend, but it was like the senior. And I told my brother, hey, you gonna come? Him and my sister-in-law. And it wasn't my sister-in-law at the time, but he was like, yeah, well, I don't know, because he was staying at her house, and he goes, well, we'll see. So I told him, well, I'm going to go without y'all. So I ended up going with some friends from work, and they did end up showing up, but it was way later, and by then I got super wasted. I was drinking, like, the hot Everclear out of a bottle, so I got drunk fast. And I got so drunk that my brother and Daniel was with them. They couldn't find a way to get me home. So they went around the neighborhood because there was so many cars there. for the party. They were trying to steal the car to get me home. So I like was just face flat with my sister-in-law, just throwing up and stuff. And a friend of mine drives by and she's like, "Hey, you need a ride home, G?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so she took me home with my sister-in-law, and the guys ended up at the house later, and I threw up and I was just miserable that day. And I remember when we fell asleep, because I want to say my mom was in Mexico at the time, and so it was just my grandparents, and they were not aware of anybody going in and out at night. I knocked out on the couch. Daniel knocked out on the couch, and that was our first kiss, and throw up mouth and everything.
Romantic. That's romantic.
Oh, that's love.
Wife.
Yes, my hero. So that was the first time we started actually talking, and then we started dating, and then ended up pregnant.
So
later.
then you end up pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and how soon after you get pregnant do y'all get married?
We got married 6 days before I had my daughter.
Mm.
So we got married on Valentine's Day at the courthouse.
Oh.
And it was funny because my mother-in-law suggested it. She goes, "Hey, they're getting married at the courthouse. Y'all want to get married?" And we were going somewhere, and I was in the back seat and he was in the front. She goes, "I'll pay for it." And then he just kind of turns around and like, "Want to get married?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess." Okay, so we got married that day.
Oh, wow.
So we got married.
So then, I mean, because you mentioned, you get married, you're pregnant, and then you enter into abusive relationship. Now, was he ever abusive prior to that?
No.
So where did things shift? I mean, I'm trying to, and I've dealt with this stuff in a lot of people, and I actually preached a sermon a while back where I was like, how did you get from "I love you" to "I wish I could kill her"? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
How did that transition happen from dating to loving, pregnancy? Of course, there's feelings of love and amorous stuff. And then all of a sudden you're married, and then now it's abuse.
I don't know how it got. Well, the abuse didn't happen till afterwards, because I don't remember him being abusive in the beginning. It was more, I noticed jealousy, like just jealousy. Like we were working together, and he's like, "Yeah, he likes you." Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm like, "Okay, what does that got to do with me? Like, I don't like him. I'm with you." And he goes, "I don't like the way he stares at you." And I'm like, "Okay, so."
Did you know he was messing around?
No, at that time, no. He wasn't messing around before well, at least I don't think so. Before we were, while I was pregnant and stuff. And he wasn't abusive. It wasn't till afterwards.
After the baby?
After my daughter is when he got more abusive. He was more like
so you're
neglective.
So you're noticing the jealousy. You're pregnant with your baby, your daughter, and he's just jealous. You're like, okay, whatever, I'm with you. The baby comes. Where was the shift?
Well, I remember like my daughter was maybe 2 or 3 months old, and that's when I realized he was cheating on me. He cheated on me, and I was we had got married already, and I just tore up our certificate, and I said, "I'm leaving." And I don't know what he said or what happened where I stayed. I had all this stuff packed, and I stayed. And
did you ever discuss? And I mean, I you know what? I meant to ask him this in his interview, but I didn't get a chance to. Since you're mentioning that, I mean, did you ever ask him why? Why? I mean, you have me. What possessed you to cheat on me? Or what was your reasoning behind that? Did you ever ask him? Did he ever tell you that?
No, I would just curse at him and be like, "Why would you want that?" Because I knew of this girl, and she was around about kind of girl, and I just felt like, I don't know, I guess for myself, being insecure already, I was like, how? Why? Like, we're married. We're not just girlfriend and boyfriend
What would
anymore.
he say to that?
It was nothing. It was blanks. It was just blank stuff, and I don't know, I just felt not worthy enough.
So then he cheated on you. You find out. You tear up your marriage certificate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what progresses from there? I mean, that denotes the abuse.
It would be just a punch here, or it was a lot of verbal, and started off with verbal and pushing, and
Did you ever fight back?
yeah, I would say I fought back.
What did you think the first time he ever hit you?
Shock.
Like what can you remember that first time?
No, I can't remember the first time. I can remember certain times. I remember when I already had the kids, at both of them at that time, just different times I would remember.
Was it I'm just, if you don't want to speak on this, you don't have to. I mean, was it a punch? Was it a slap? Was it a backhand? Was it, what was it? I mean, was it like a full out?
It was full on strapping, because I wasn't so innocent. I would, instigate some of the stuff, and I had a sailor's mouth. I was always cursing at him and calling him names and fighting back.
What do you think provoked the abuse? I mean, so jealousy, he's cheating on you, you're angry, you're telling him stuff. I mean, what provoked it? Was drugs? Was it your mouth? Was it unprovoked? Was it just him throwing a fit? What?
I think it was drugs, really, because there was times where it didn't seem like it was him, and I know it wasn't until I got saved when I saw the anger in him that that's not him. He looked like a total different person. Mm-hmm. And then when he was calm, it was like, okay, it's Daniel. We're good now. Mm-hmm. But it was like a flip, just like something was in him, and he just would flip. And it was more just him thinking I was cheating on him. It was always flipped.
So the way I'm thinking this is happening is, and I mean, I've dealt with this before in couples in my ministry, is a husband or a wife cheats. The wife or the husband is like, you know what, let's work it out. But the guy that cheated or the girl that cheated is kind of like, nah, man, it's not that easy. He's going to get me back, or she's going to get me back. And they can't accept that the person that got cheated on is like, no, that's fine, let's work it out. And so they begin to get paranoid, like they're going to get me back, like they're going to cheat on me. They're just going to wait for the right time, and then they're going to do it. And then they begin to get very suspicious about that other person.
Yeah, there was always suspicion on me. He always was suspicious that I was either letting someone in, I was hitting him at night or punching him in the face, or he would say, I woke up and my jaw hurts or something. Did you hit me? And I'm like, no, I didn't hit you. And it makes me laugh because it was funny, but he's all, that's why you're laughing. And I'm like, no, it's just funny that you say that. Like, who does that? Yeah. I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm pretty sure it happens, but I wouldn't do that.
And I mean, and I want to ask Daniel, I mean, I'm going to ask him right now, but I mean, I think it's all fueled by guilt. You know what I mean? Would you agree to that? I mean, although
I think I would always say that. I'm like, you're only thinking I'm cheating. Because you did it, because you always did it, or because you're doing it. That's why you're always, accusing me of doing it. Mm-hmm. And I, as much as I wasn't innocent, but I grew up with my grandparents, and they were married for I don't even know how many years, like 60-something years. Oh, wow. I only saw my mom with my stepdad. Before that, it was my dad, and I didn't even know him, so. I saw my sister Terry with one guy, and that was my niece's father. So when we got married, I felt like this is a good thing, like this is us together forever. Like I didn't want to be that woman that has, no offense to anybody who does, but I didn't want to have a lot of baby daddies. I didn't want that for me. Mm-hmm. I thought if this is not going to work, I'm done, And so that was one of the things that went through my mind, trying to make it work as well.
Was you trying to have like a family and stuff at that time?
Yes. Well, we already had our family, so I was like, that's my husband. Why would I want more kids from anyone else if I'm already married?
In the midst of all this stuff, did Christ, help ever factor into your mind? I
thought about him sometimes, because when I was younger, my aunt would pick me up sometimes and take me to church. And it wasn't anything like our fellowship, but I did hear some stuff. You know,
What
I
kind
heard
of church
about
was it?
It was a Christian church. It was called Eagle's Nest. It was not the same, but there was still some teaching that I took from it, and about Jesus, and so that was when I was probably about 10, and then I didn't think much about Jesus or God. I didn't think about it until when I was pregnant with my daughter, and they said she was going to have Down syndrome.
Oh, wow.
And they said, okay, well, you got to watch these videos. The first they tried to get us to abort her, and then they said, well, if you have to learn how to take care of a Down syndrome baby, so watch these videos. And I remember my husband praying. You know, he wasn't my husband at the time, but I remember him praying.
Because we were talking about, he was praying to the...
Yeah, he was praying to somebody, I don't know, but I heard him praying, and I was like, whoa, he's deep. But I remember, and yeah, you know, at the time when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was working, or no, I wasn't working. I don't remember, but I remember going to a church. It was probably when I was pregnant with my son, and I remember this man would always come and witness to me, and he wasn't witnessing to me. He was witnessing to my sister-in-law, but I was always there listening, and my sister-in-law wasn't hearing it. And finally, I don't know, maybe it was for me, because I said, well, where's your church at? And he told me where it was. And I remember going. I want to say it was my daughter. I was pregnant with my daughter. And that was weird, too, because I ended up going to their church, and I heard more about Christ. And so that was another stepping stone where I heard about, you know, Jesus again.
So then he abandons you at some point.
Yeah, he was in and out. After I had my daughter, we were in and out, because after he cheated on me, I thought, I can't stay in his mom's house with him. You know, this is like a trap. So I felt like I need to get out and go find myself an apartment. So I started working 3 months after I had her. I started working, and I remember getting on like the low income applications, and I remember when I went to go fill those out, he was with me, and we said, let's just both fill one out. That way, better chances of one of us getting called. Well, they called, but it was under his name. So we went over to Cross Creek, and we got in there.
The Cross Creek Apartments.
Right, the Cross Creek Apartments.
Which were right next to... Oh, so you were in the mother church?
When it was on Cross Creek.
Really?
On Walsham and Cross Creek.
Really?
Right. 2003, and it was in October. It was like a couple months before we moved to the new building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was, you know, the Texaco was there.
Yeah.
And I was either walking or driving to Cross Creek, and they were right there on the corner of 35 and Walsham.
So you moved into the apartments on Cross Creek, and the church is right. The church. So if you don't know, y'all guys. I don't know if y'all know this. Whoever's viewing this, but we got saved in this little storefront church on Walsham and Cross Creek here in Northeast San Antonio. You know, and it was like in the hood, like it was like this little hood area of that area, and some real ghetto low income apartments, right?
Ghetto.
And banyan tree.
They don't have rats; they have scorpions.
Oh wow!
So you move into Cross Creek, right? And then you're just living your life, and you run into people street preaching.
Right. I was coming home, and
who was it?
It was a handful of people. I couldn't remember everybody, but I know there was Pastor Juan, there was Pastor Will, Pastor Roger might have been there, Victor, Jonathan Herbert, and David Arredondo, I believe, and maybe some other people, Alan, maybe, I don't know. They were so yeah, they were street preaching, and they just started witnessing to me. And
so you said a young man witnessed to you. Who do you remember who that was?
I can't remember. I can't remember if it was. I don't know.
So so explain the whole situation. You're driving by.
Yeah, I'm either driving by or walking by, and they started. I said, "What's going on here?" And they were like, just started witnessing to me, telling me about Jesus. And at that time, Daniel was gone. He had left, so he was in and out. And at that point, he was gone. And then when they started witnessing to me, I was broken, and by then I already had 2 kids. One was 2, and the other one was 3.5.
How old were you?
I was 22 or 23. And I was like, well, might as well try it. Why not?
So you were like, where's the church or whatever?
Yeah, and they said, it's right there on Cross Creek. I'm like, I live on Cross Creek. We're on Cross Creek. They're like, right there.
You're thinking like a big old cathedral or something?
Yeah, something big. But they're like, no, it's right there. I said, oh, okay. So as I left, I remember seeing it, and then I was like, okay, I guess that's where we're going. So I remember making it that Sunday, and I took my kids, and it was different because I was different too. So I went in with, this long braid. I had piercings, and
I think I remember that. I mean, I've never missed a service before, so I know I must have seen you when you first came to church.
Yeah, you probably did. I remember. I don't know. The Shantos, they had their baby their little girl was a baby.
Okay, the oldest one.
Yeah.
Or the little. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a baby, and I just remember everybody was always around that little baby, and I was like, oh, okay.
Like, what's wrong with why? Why? What's happening there?
Right. I was all like,
So you come to church. Who prays with you? I mean, you answer the altar call or what?
At first I didn't want to pray. I knew something was changing or something hit me, but I was a little prideful. I don't know. So the first person that went up to me to ask me to pray was Kim. And I was like, no,
so
thank you.
Georgia Kim already in the church? Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. And I was like, no, thank you. And then after that, Sarah came, and I already knew after Kim walked away, like, I should have prayed.
Oh, wow.
So then when they asked me again, Sarah, I was like, okay, I'll pray. So I prayed.
Oh, wow.
And I felt different. I felt something just release. And I remember saying, okay, I'm going to come here. And I started going.
It's 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And then I started hearing the pastor saying, we're moving. I'm like, oh, no, where are they going? They're just down the street from me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that far, so.
Yeah, that's the building now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember the first thing we ever did in that new building was Juan and Carla's marriage.
Yes, and the floor was all concrete.
It was all concrete. I remember that. Yeah. So you're living for God by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel's still not in the picture?
No, he would come and go, and I remember he had left, and he went to Harlingen, and I remember wanting him to have this relationship with the kids because I didn't want them to be fatherless, and I was so happy I got saved. I wanted to tell him, and it was bust. Like, he was like, I don't want to hear that. Like, so I remember trying to take my kids over there, just trying to take them so they can have some kind of relationship with him.
Did you grasp salvation quickly? I mean, you grasped it? You grasped
I knew what the salvation was, but I didn't know all that came with it. I feel like it took me a long time to finally...
To fully surrender.
Not fully surrender, because I felt like I was surrendered, but the little things, like, I remember still cursing, and I remember one time Carla goes, that's a bad word. And I was like, oh, sorry. Like, I didn't know that. I go, I didn't know that was a bad word.
Uribe, Carla Uribe?
Yeah.
Was she married? Oh, yeah, she was married, yeah.
Yeah, like, it took me a while, so by then they got married, and and I had started off going to, like, Kim and George's Bible study, or Kim and George, then the Uribes.
Okay.
And way later, when my husband got saved, we went to Norman Wales. But yeah, during that time of just trying to understand everything, because I wasn't making every service because I worked. I was the only one working. I was paying the bills. I was paying everything, my car.
And so you're trying to make your kids, you're trying to have your kids have a relationship with Daniel.
Right.
And so what are you doing? You're going over there to visit him?
I'm taking the kids so he can see them.
To Harlingen.
Oh, wow. And see, being a single woman at the time, I thought you just put gas in the car and you go. So that was, I feel like, the grace of God, because I never checked oil. I don't ever remember getting oil changes.
Oh, wow.
Or anything. So it was just, okay, I got gas in the car. Let's go, kids.
Yeah.
Strap them in. 2 little babies, and there I go. 4 hours away.
So how separate are they? How years?
A year and a half.
Oh, really?
A little bit more than a year and a half.
Oh, wow. And so what, you take him over there, he'd hang out with them, or was he?
It was horrible. I remember getting there one time, and he had hickeys from here all the way down. And I just felt like, yeah, I was crying. Like, oh, my gosh. Thinking, like, why would he be faithful, right? All these, you know? He would try to make up for it by saying, come over the, like, you know, he would be like, I have to work. He was at Denny's, but he was, like, on so many drugs, you can tell. He was like, I'll give y'all whatever y'all want. And I was like, okay, so I guess we get to eat for free. So we, you know, he would, you know, give us food and ignore his phone calls that he was getting. And it was only for like a day or two, because I was like, I got to go back to work. And I just came so we can be with you.
And why was he there? Just because he had moved over there?
To run away.
Oh, okay.
Run away from me, because he hated me.
Okay. So you'd come back?
He'd come back, and I'd come back home. It was just a lot of back and forth. It was me trying to serve God, and him just, he didn't want to hear about it. The only time he would ask me was because he wanted to see if I was really at church. He was like, what was it about? And I'll start saying, he goes, okay, I don't care. You know? And I'd be like, okay. You know, or like I would have notes, or, man, it was awesome. And it was just like nothing would come out of it. But we butted heads so much. Like, he would always leave, or we'd fight. It would be verbal. It would be hurtful. And I remember like praying, God, you know, help me with my cursing. And then when we argue and he'd get at me, I'd start cursing. And he goes, see, you're not. Oh, that's your God, and you're cursing. And I'm like,
So, and I mean, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, you're living for God 6 years, right?
Yes, 6.5.
And so you're being, and I think he kind of mentioned that during his interview, was that, you know, you're coming to church and you're being beat every time you come back, or whatever, you know. So you're coming to church and you're being abused physically.
Right.
They seen that at church, right?
What?
Did they like see any marks and stuff on you at church?
Yeah. My pastor would get so mad. I remember going to pastor. I remember when I was working, I had to call in one day, and I lied to them. I told them I got in a car accident because I had this giant knot on my head, like Cyclops or something. And I was like, they were like, oh, when I went to school, they're like, oh no. And I'm like, yeah. I go, it was bad.
So people at church saw these evidence of the abuse too?
Right. They would, my pastor mainly, and I guess I covered some of it up. It was bad, but it was like when I prayed, it was like that comfort that God gave me. Like, sometimes I would be like, God, why? You know, do you hear me?
Why did you stay?
Well, and so that was what we were talking about before the interview. I was about to ask that is, what kept you there? I mean,
it was, and I don't know. I don't recommend women to keep getting abused like that, you know. But unless you're praying and God's, you know, I prayed, God revealed to me that you want me to leave him, or that you want me to let him go. 'Cause I loved him and I wanted him to get saved so bad. I felt like he was being tormented, 'cause when I got saved, I realized it's not him. I saw something else in him. I saw like demons in him. I saw him.
And you think that's all linked to drugs? Or really, like, you really believe it's all linked to, because he had mentioned in his interview that he would wake up and he was hitting you or choking you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the one that went through that. What was that?
It was drugs. It was drugs, or like I said, it was he would see demons and stuff. I remember he would lock us in a room when I would go and spend the night. Even though I had my apartment, I was trying to make it work. Me and the kids and him would stay in his little room on his twin bed, all of us laying on a twin bed, and he'd go and glue paper or pieces of my hair across the door, so if I got up and walked out, he'd know because they'd be busted.
Oh, wow.
So, and then I remember laying there looking up and, just wondering, like, what am I doing here?
That sounds psychotic.
Yeah.
Drugs.
And I remember looking, and just the little vents that you have in your wall. Yeah, who you talking to? Who you talking to? Who's up there? And I'm like, nobody's up there. Nobody fits in that little vent. And he's
really?
like, yeah, no, you're talking to somebody. I'm all... And I just thought, he's got a demon in him. Like,
was it? I mean, I'm sure you don't know the answer, but meth.
I don't know what he was on. He was on a lot of stuff. So I remember, and then I thought it was a mix of later with the military, because he would get up when he would hear planes go by, because we used to live in an apartment by the airport.
Mm-hmm. Was he different whenever he came back from the military?
As far as his sleep patterns, yeah. I felt like his sleep patterns were different.
So what happened with those planes?
He'd get up and he goes, man, they sound like those mortars where they're like, yeah. He said, I remember him telling me about that. And I'm like, I can see him thinking the planes are those mortars or something.
So as you're living through this, you're saved. You said you mentioned I don't recommend women stay in relationships where they're being abused and beat up and stuff. You did, but you must have been pretty keen to God's spirit. I mean, for you to be able to say, "Well, I don't recommend that," but I knew I had to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, how do you identify that? I mean, what would you say to someone? I mean, what was God impressing upon your heart where you can identify and say, no, I don't think girls should stay in those relationships, but yet I did. I had to, because God never told me to leave them, and I needed. What was impressing upon your heart that made that clear to you?
He wasn't. I felt like God, like it hurt. Like, yeah, I was physically hurt. I was, mentally hurt. I just felt like, when it was done and after I prayed, I'm like, okay, I can go another round. Like, it wasn't like somebody helped me. It was more like God, he helped me through it. Like,
I believe full-heartedly. I believe full-heartedly that, what you're saying, Jessica, it speaks very highly about the measure of faith and relationship that you had with God. I don't think women have that.
Yeah, that was powerful.
I think you have that. You had that. I deal with a lot of women. I don't think they have that. One, I don't think they pray. They don't read their Bibles. They don't do anything. They live very mediocre lives. But they want all the blessing. They want their marriage better. They want things to be fixed. They want that guy to change. I'm saying from a woman's perspective.
Right.
But they don't do nothing. I pastor these people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I've pastored many people throughout the years. They don't have that. You know what I mean? They don't have keen spiritual sense where you can confidently say, well, I know they pray and God's stirring them in this direction. They're very mediocre at best, but they want more, and they want God to move, and they need God this and they need God that. Yet their lives don't show that they're desperate like that.
Right.
What would you tell a woman that's going through that? From your perspective as a woman having to live through that, of the level and the dynamic of relationship with God that they need to have to make it through that and to see God move. I'm not saying you're perfect. Of course, you're not perfect.
No, I didn't. I compromised a lot whenever he would really come on, you don't have to go Wednesday. And I'd give up a Wednesday. By the end of the Wednesday, we're fighting, and he left again. Or we argued and we squabbed it out, and I just remember, like, I can't compromise no more. Like, I went through these steps where I tried to put God on the back burner. I was like, okay, God, I got it. We're good today. We're good this week. And it didn't last long. So I was like, okay, I can't take the wheel anymore. I can't keep trying to do it on my own. So
you knew you needed God.
I knew I needed, and I knew I needed to make stands. I knew I needed to do certain things. Praying was my main thing. Praying God put someone in his path.
Tell me, okay, explain to these people watching this video what your prayer consisted of. Like, not what you said, but what your prayer life was like, because I don't think people grasp that.
My prayers were constantly for my husband to get saved. God put someone in his path. Put true Christians in his path. The ones I don't even know, so he can't say that I sent people from my church over there.
And that was his buddy Frank.
Yeah, and I didn't know him. I never knew he was witnessing to my husband for 4 years.
That's the power of prayer.
And I was like, man, praise God. So when he told me that, I was like, man, God, I know that's you. Like, I knew that was God. I remember saying, God, you need to tear down that wall that's surrounding his heart, because he was hard. He hated me. One time he said, because I knew he loved his kids, especially his daughter. He was always about his daughter. Like, he was like, he said, F, my daughter's name. And I was like shocked, like, he didn't mean that. Like, and I don't know, I just kept praying. I said, God, give me confirmation to let him go. And sometimes I was like, please, God, give me confirmation to let him go. And I wasn't willing to give in until I heard from God. Like, I want God to tell me to let him go. And it was almost like a desperate need for me to, but I wasn't going to do it until I heard from him. I was like, and I remember writing in my Bible, God save my husband. I had the best pastor. Like, I was always there crying. I had the sisters in the church, and they were always helpful, just comforting. There was times where I didn't want to talk to them. I trying to pull away, I don't want to hear it. But then they were always there. So I was like, man, if it wasn't for them helping me, I couldn't have got through it either. I mean, I remember Val was going through her own stuff. And I remember seeing her going through her situation. And I remember seeing her on the stage crying. And I'm like, she's singing, but she's crying because I know it just happened. And I remember seeing her just still serving God. And I'm like, if she can do it, I can do it.
And that was my next question. And I mean, I think that is a big telltale sign of what moves God. And I've preached this before, can you move God to move for you? And it's like, I remember being in the church. I remember seeing you being involved. I didn't know none of this stuff, but I seen you being involved, living for God, coming to church, doing the best you can, being involved, doing things, all the while balancing all this madness with your husband. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big part, that, the focus of saying, you know what? Yeah, my life is a mess, but I'm going to serve God.
Yeah.
Not mediocrity, right? Everybody does the bare minimum. Beyond that mediocrity. So I'm going to get involved. I'm going to be in ministry. I'm going to do this. I remember you being in the drama team. I remember you going on outreach. I remember impact team, street. Wow. I remember you being involved in everything. That was just, awesome. That's who you were. While people don't know all this drama and messes in your life, I think that proves a big deal about your resilience and your steadfastness, and that's what enables God to move. That's what I think people need to grasp.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? How did you wrap your head around that?
I still can't. I mean, when you say all that, I felt like I didn't do anything that no one else can do. I don't see it like I did much. Just served God, just prayed, just read my Bible. And I remember my kids, like I said, when I first got saved, they were like 2 and almost 4. And I remember they did a baby dedication. I remember I made that promise to God to raise them, you know, serving God. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I'm lying to God if I pull out. Mm-hmm. Or if I give up, I'm giving up on my kids. Mm-hmm. So I kept on, you know, also because I wanted to see my kids.
Well, let me ask you a question, Jessica. So you said that you don't feel like you did anything no one else could have done. Okay, so why do you think other women don't make it? What's the difference? I mean, I hear you. I believe you.
They go through the same
but women that go through, but not even come close to making it as far as you've made it. Why? Then why? Then you identify from your life perspective to these other people that can't. You try, you just can't make it. What's the difference?
They're just looking at the now, what's going on now, and not what's up ahead. There had to be something different going to happen from the change I was making. I knew, okay, it didn't take me 1 month, 2 months, 6 months to get into this mess. Mm-hmm. It's going to take me a long time to get out of this mess. So I also considered like, hey, well, God, if at one point maybe you do want me to let him go. At that point, I started thinking, I'm going to marry a godly man then. Mm-hmm. I want a godly man. And so I started praying, God, I want a godly husband. Mm-hmm. I want a godly husband. You know, if you don't save my husband or my husband doesn't get saved, I want a godly husband.
So 6 years, 3 months.
Yes.
Before your husband ever stepped foot in the church to the degree that God touched him, right?
Right.
And he got saved. That was 6 years, 3 months.
Right.
Right. Okay. Several things. One, how can you, Jessica, encourage a lady, a girl, a person? What can you tell them to keep going?
To keep going. Just stay involved. I think a lot of it had to do with me staying involved and serving God. As far as, like I said, I prayed, I read my Bible. I still had to work full-time jobs. Still had to, you know, put my kids in school. I felt like I neglected them a lot because I was a full-time, you know, working full-time. I go pick them up from wherever, bring them home, shower, everything. Just seek God's voice. Just drown out that other voice that keeps saying, give up, you're a doormat, you know.
Do you believe, Jessica, people know that when they're being mediocre?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they have excuses for everything.
Okay.
I know because I did it in the beginning. I'm like, no, I can't go because he wants me to stay here or we're going to go to the movies. And I finally said, forget this. You know, I know the pattern. Every time I stay home, I miss a good sermon because I'll have to go buy the CD, and I know what happened. We got an argument, or I got stomped on that day, or you know, it was a lot of abuse, and I felt like there's got to be something different. I remember praying one night when my kids fell asleep, showered them, put them to sleep, and I remember said, God, is this all that I'm gonna be? You know, am I gonna be alone taking care of my kids? And that it was like. Right after that, I saw the guy street preaching. So he heard me, you know, I know. And that's because I didn't even know God.
And so 6 years, 3 months. My last question, and before we go into the next thing real quick, whenever you would come to church with the signs of abuse on you, with what face would you walk into church, or how would you do that?
I was happy to be at church. I felt like that's where I was the most happiest. You know, it was either church where everybody already knew and still accepted me, and I got, you know, my Jesus feel, or, you know, go home and, you know, hear it. Or it wasn't just from that side. It was also, you know, from my own family, you know, like, you're a doormat, you know, why are you still with him? And, you know, he's over there with all the other girls. And, you know, my brother got in a squab because he was trying to talk mess. And I remember we fought, bleeding. everything. You know, it was like fighting from everywhere just to hold on to some sanity. And it was like, all right, God, you know.
So Daniel gets saved, and I was mentioning in Daniel's interview, it was like, to me, from my perspective, the way I saw it was like Paul, you know, I mean, this man, the way I saw it from where I sat was this man gets saved and it's like, pfft. I mean, God just catapulted him forward. You know, 6 years, 3 months, nonsense, blah, 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 everything you've been through, you live for God. So everything in your past, 6 years, 3 months, and then this man finally comes to church, gets saved, and it's like this. I mean, of course, we understand salvation's a miracle, but this was different. This was kind of like this transcending miracle of thrusting forward, man. I'd never seen that before. It was he got saved, and all of a sudden, this man's a leader. What do you attribute? Yes, Christ, but he said your exampleship. I believe that full-heartedly, but how do you interpret that?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, his own friend was an example to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, you know, that guy was truly saved. He's truly saved. So I just felt like I was just another person. I guess I don't see myself doing an example. I was just following, you know.
What did you think? I mean, very few people see this miracle in their lives that can actually testify about it. What were you thinking when God's answering your prayer 6 years and 3 months later?
It was a miracle. And that's something I can say, like, man, if God can do that with my husband, he can do it with anybody's husband, because of all the stuff we went through, the heartache, the, you know, tearing each other down, you know, mentally, you know, just all that. I was like, at first, it was like, how do I do this? Like, this is a totally different man now. Like, he was really trying to be different. I remember telling my pastor, like, I don't know, Pastor, like, we have 2 separate accounts. I'm not ready to put my money with his, you know. And he said, you know, it's like y'all are newlyweds. Mm-hmm. He goes, you're gonna have to learn to trust him, and that was the next role, the next battle or step, and I had to learn how to trust him. And I knew I can trust him when I saw him doing things that he would have never done before, which was pick up his Bible, start praying.
Praise God.
When I saw him first, like, start just street preaching, we were visiting my brother at Bear County, and there was a long line outside. He stood on the steps and just started witnessing to them. And it was out of nowhere, so I was like, oh snap, you know, like he's street preaching. So when all these things started happening, I'm like, okay, you know, like, I can let my wall down. You know, I can start trusting him. Like, this man's different. You know, he never wanted to miss church. He didn't, you know, never not prayed. You know, and then he started praying over me and the kids, and I'm like, he's saved. I'm like, man, God, you know, he wanted to get involved.
Yeah. And then here now, I mean, so as you progress, you and your husband progress forward. I mean, I got eventually 2006, I got sent out. So I didn't see the progression of you and your husband. I heard about it, you know what I mean? And, you know, when I would hear about, you know, your husband and you, and I was kind of like, man, like, wow, that's crazy, you know? Now here you are, you're pastoring. You and your husband are pastoring in New Braunfels, which is the first church ever planted out of our branch. I mean, I think that's powerful. Did you ever see that for yourself?
No, not in the beginning. No, I never saw that. I seen plenty of couples come in while I sat there alone, and it'll be start off with the husband or with the wife, and then a couple of months later it'd be both of them and their whole family, and I'm like, oh, great, another family. Yeah. You know, I'm like, when is my husband coming in, God? Like, but I never expected that to happen. Not go this far. I just wanted him to get saved.
Yeah.
And I'll do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do all of that all over again just because I know God's faithful and what he's gonna do, what he was gonna do.
Praise God.
Now, Daniel, where are we at a time, Daniel? Oh, wow. Okay. So look, so I'm sure we can go on for hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, me personally, just I have so many questions for you. I deal with this stuff almost too much.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm sure your husband can attest to that too, or you can attest to that too in your church. You know, I have so many, but I think this is a good place to end the interview. But is there anything so just so you know, in my church, whenever people go through stuff, I'm like, you need to call Jessica Alfaro. I mean, that's my default to everybody. I'm like, you need to call Jessica Alfaro. You know who she is.
Your perseverance is inspiring.
It's so. I wish I could deposit your brain and your spirit, you know, into a lot of these women. You know what I mean? To help them pattern their lives after that. To help them, because I believe God would help them what they understand and have the spiritual keenness that you have. But in the understanding that you came from the world too. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I just, is there anything you can say, I mean, as we're wrapping it up, that you can, maybe think we miss, that you can kind of like close this out and say, look, man, if there's one thing you can take home with you tonight, this.
That is it's how far are you gonna go for your marriage? That's all, I guess. It's either your marriage is worth it and you're gonna serve God and trust that God's gonna bring him back or bring her back, or you're just gonna give up. Because once you give up, most of the time you won't serve God anymore either. You're just leave. You gave up on your marriage, you gave up on God. So it's like you didn't trust that God was going to move in that anyways. So just serve God, you know, pray and believe and read your Bible and be with your fellow
Christians. Get
involved.
Get involved and push forward for Jesus full-heartedly and let God do what he's going to do. And you just live for God and you pray. And
Amen.
It sounds so simple. I know it's not. It wasn't.
It was not.
But it's a good pattern to remember. And I got to serve God with all my heart and get involved and push forward for Jesus and let God take care of that while I'm a good example, the best example I can be, knowing that I'm not perfect, but I'm trying my best because I'm believing God for something greater in the future. Well, how long in the future? Well, it took 6 years and 3 months for Jessica to see her miracle, but it happened. How long are you willing to wait? How much are you willing to fight and contend to see God do that which you are praying for? And on the other hand too, Jessica, I think it's a lot of it. It's a credit to your relationship with God. You know, I think that matters a lot. And respectfully, to a lot of people, they don't have that. They don't even have their own relationships with God in order. And they're trying to contend for someone else to get saved when they themselves ain't even 100%. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that makes a big difference too, is that you came to the point where you realize, I'm going to live for God. I have to live for God. I don't have an option. And I have to push forward. Are you perfect? No. But I want to live for God with everything I have. And I'm going to push forward. And I'm going to see God move.
Praise God.
Yes.
Praise
God
God
with all your heart, and don't give up. Your relationship's not the same as other people, so you might have to go a little further.
Yeah. Powerful. Well,
Amen.
I believe, I mean, this is just, I've heard their testimonies before, Jessica and Daniel and Jessica, but to hear it from this perspective in this format, I mean, it is so impactful, even to my life, hearing the words that they're saying. I mean, just the power of God, and I mean, benefit from this. You viewers, people in our fellowship, whoever you are, people you know, they're going to view this stuff, view it, watch it through, and benefit from it. Understand that there is hope for you. And how severe can things get? We don't know. But, I mean, take it from the example of these people. And to see that they're pastoring a church, doing great things, thriving for God, pastoring a thriving church, that's a miracle. and that is what we're contending for, and that's what you can see in your own personal life. And so with that, man, I want to leave you with all the hope in the world. Thank you, Jessica, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate your testimony. Awesome. And so we're going to cut it here. And so Huicho Breach, Luis Perez, a.k.a. Demon Killer, checking out him, man, co-host.
Case.
All right, man, we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.